the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Councilmember Heidi Leach is absent tonight. Approval of the agenda. We have one addition to the agenda under consent agenda 10F, temporary extension of outdoor liquor permit to JT's Pub and Grill for October 1st. Is there any other changes to the agenda?
No.
Council? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with that addition?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Diane, second by Dave. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Approval of the minutes of the August 17th, 2016 regular meeting. You received them in your packet. Is there any changes, questions, clarification? If not, do I have a motion to approve the August 17th, 2016 regular minutes?
So moved.
Got a motion by Keith. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. This brings us to our public open forum. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Seeing no one, our public open forum is now closed. We do not have any public hearings tonight, which now brings us to our reports and presentations. Police Department monthly report. Brian?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Activity report for August of 2016. Some of the numbers that we had that month. We had 12 alarm calls. We had 1 K-9 assist for other agency. We had 29 personal assists for people. We had 33 assists for other agencies. We had 7 bar crowd checks. We had 56 citizen contacts. We had 12 dog complaints. We issued citations to 11 people for driving on a revocated and suspended license. We had 10 driving complaints. We had 8 arrests for a small amount of marijuana and drug paraphernalia. We had 7 gas drive-offs, 25 matter of information calls, 15 medicals, 9 citations given for having no Minnesota license, 6 accidents. We gave 40 speed citations out. We had 31 suspicious calls. 14 of them were activity, 4 for suspicious person, 2 suspicious phone calls, and 1 suspicious smell, and 10 suspicious vehicles. We had 7 thefts. We had 7 verbal disputes. We had 12 welfare checks, and we had we gave out 328 verbal warnings. So we had a total activity of 828. We had 500 calls that we dealt with, and we, like I say, we gave out 328 verbal warnings. So we compare that to 2015. We were up on calls 127. We gave 16 less verbal warnings, so that made us ahead of 2015 by 111. And compared to July, we were down 129 calls. We gave 53 more warnings, so that gave us a total of 76 less than in July of total activity. That's about all I have for the month of August. Pretty busy month.
Council have any questions?
Dog calls increasing?
Seems like we've been having a lot of them lately. Yeah, a lot of stray dogs running loose, a lot of barking dogs complaints, so. And a couple bite complaints, I think.
Do we ever charge for a false alarm call?
Do we charge for a false alarm? No?
That might be something to look at. I know they do in St. Paul.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something that, I don't think the number is up that high to the point we need
Yeah,
to
Yeah,
probably not.
charging. You're looking at 12 during a month, so
yeah.
Could be a deterrent too, I would think.
Yeah.
so, any other questions for Brian?
Nope.
Right,
Thank you, Brian.
Ambulance Department, second quarter report. Jeff?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here to report the second quarter activities, which you can see from your packet was added on the first quarter report. For the second quarter of 2016, April, we had a total of 58 runs. 14 of those were no loads, 7 were ALS transfers, 12 were BLS transfers. Total number billed was 44 for a total of $45,904.30. This was up from 53 last year in April, but over doubled from 10 years ago in 2006. May, we had a total of 57 runs. 14 of those were no loads, 8 were ALS transfers, 11 were BLS transfers. Total number billed for May was 43 for a total of $48,480.40. This was down from 72 in 2015, but not quite doubled from 10 years ago in 2006. June, we had a record month with our highest number of runs, 91. 19 of those were no loads, 6 were ALS transfers, 19 were BLS transfers. Total number billed for June was 72 for a total of $81,625.50. This is up from the 74, which was our high last year in June, and doubled from 10 years ago in 2016. The highest majority of our no loads were from crashes, followed by falls, and broken down from there. And we take majority of our patients to our local hospital, Sauk Center, and the majority of our transfers go to St. Cloud, and the rest are broken on the list. And that's all we have for the ambulance.
Okay. Questions? I've got a couple. We had one ambulance, our newest rig, go down. Is that back now?
Yes, that is back now, yes. That, I don't remember why it broke down, but yeah, it's back.
I know there was some lights flashing on the dash or something, and it was all covered by warranty. from
Yeah,
what
it was
I
all covered by
understood.
warranty, I
I was
believe,
just
so.
wondering if we were backing up and
Yeah.
running again.
Yep, we are up and running again, so.
Okay. The other thing that I noticed, and I know we've got a per mile load rate now for like trips to like Grand Forks and Hibbing and 2 out of state. I'm wondering if that's only if we're loaded. I was just wondering whether or
Right.
not we should be, on the fee schedule comes up, if maybe Tim or Kathy can't look at, or
For the way back.
increasing that, or make that a round trip charge.
Correct,
Because
because
when
it's a
you're
long
putting
trip.
on 100 and some miles one direction just to do a transfer,
A 9-hour
we're not
trip,
getting
some are
paid
night,
anything to
yeah.
come back, and we get an ambulance that breaks down. The taxpayers or the ambulance, we're the ones that get stuck with that extra.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, it's gonna be something good to look into, so.
okay. And I don't know if any of them get covered by insurance on those transfers, or
That, I'm not sure.
that's another thing I was, if we know up front the insurance is gonna cover that run, that transfer, then maybe that isn't so bad. But,
Well, we never know what's going to get covered, really.
and we don't
Right.
know we gotta write off at the end.
Yep.
So,
Correct.
try to recoup some of them charges on these, because it looks like we're hitting a lot of different,
Yeah, Rochester.
you got Grand Forks, you got Rochester, you got Fergus Falls, Hibbing, Hutchinson, 2 of them that were out of state.
Yep,
That's all wear and tear on our ambulances, and we're the ones that have to pay for it. So that's one of the things, take back to them or
Okay.
whatever, when it
Yep.
comes to work on the fee schedule, see where we can't recoup some money on that.
definitely, I can definitely see that, so.
Because rather than have an ambulance go down, and we
Makes
get,
sense.
it's the only way we're gonna keep them running for those 3-year rotation we got, is
Yeah.
if we start recouping some of it in case we have breakdowns. So.
Yeah, because with these long trips, the miles add up fast.
Right,
So,
yeah. And it's not only that, it's then when we got a crew doing a transfer, that means we're also bringing in another 3 people to put on call, so that adds to the expenses there too.
yep,
Makes sense.
So
Yep.
yep.
it's one of those things that I was looking at the report and it kind of just stood out at me and,
Should be something to definitely look into.
right, so. Anyone have any other questions or comments?
Are a lot of those long, are those mental health?
Most of our mental health, yeah, the long trips, yeah. Usually the Rochester are medicals or from hospital to hospital, but, those are the mental health ones.
Yeah, that's where we're seeing that's the problem, mental health is so full, it's hard to get them.
Anywhere.
Facility to get them full.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's where they're ending up going a long way.
And for the public's view, if you didn't hear Brian's comments on the camera, it was that a lot of these runs out of state and these farther ones are mental health cases. So it's still an expense that we need to recoup. So,
Yep.
no other questions for Jeff?
No.
Thank you,
Okay,
Jeff.
thank you.
Thank you.
Planning Commission report, Sarah?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In your packet, you have the Planning Commission report. We had a meeting on September 21st. We had 3 public hearings at that meeting, which you will be taking action on a little later this evening. The first one was for a side yard setback for variance. The second one was for a conditional use permit for apartment complex, and then a zoning amendment about temporary family health care dwellings. Also in the packet, I'm not sure if it's your packet, with our building permit report, we have been doing, we're still at about I can't remember, it's almost $6 million. Yeah, $6.1 million at the end of August for our construction total, for the total value of construction. And so that's fairly close to what we had last year. And let's see, what else I got there? Just some informational items about some classes that we can attend. We also received 5, the status of our comprehensive plan update. I received 5 proposals from 5 different consultants. And then last Saturday was the fall cleanup day, which went really well. And it was from 8 till 1. And also, like I said, I have educational events that the Planning Commission can attend if they would like to. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Park Board report.
Okay, the Park Board met on Tuesday, September 6th. That was their regular session for the fall meeting. They did have 3 campground or seasonal campers in the audience that provided us several comments about ideas that maybe we could do to improve the future of the campground. They also are recommending that the city proceed with the campground point stabilization project, which is later on as an action item in your agenda, and I'll go into more detail at that time. They are recommending the 2017 budget as presented. They did have a couple of requests for refunds that they did deny, so that's kind of according to our policy, but sometimes we'll have people might have some other circumstances they want special consideration. And also, they discussed the summer rec appropriation that was the end of our contract with the school and how we would move forward with that. It is currently in the budget moving forward, but we have both the school and the Baseball Association would appreciate some funding out of that dollar. So that'll be something that they'll be talking about at their October meeting. And so then that'll come back to the city council if it stays in the budget in December, how that would get split out. So that's all I have for the park board. If there's any questions.
Questions? Any additions? No. Okay, thank you. Airport Board report?
Okay, the airport board met in regular session on Wednesday, September 14th. They had a few items. The grant request for the reconstruction of runway 1432, along with the lighting, the beacon, the grading, the turnarounds, and the apron work was approved. And that was earlier in the year. We went out for bids and everything was on hold to make sure that money was finally granted, and it was, and we received the grant application. That is later in your agenda with some details on that. The FAA has also approved that we proceed with developing a non-aeronautical use of airport hangars lease agreement, so that at some future time, we could rent it out for other purposes if we needed to. This is something the FAA has been looking at over years, and they finally adopted a policy. And then also MnDOT Aeronautics was here today. They met with Matt, myself, and two of the board members from the airport board, and we talked about the 20-year capital improvement plan, but it was a kind of an in-depth meeting of all things airport, basically. Everything from discussing drones to our capital improvement plan to the condition of the pavement to, keeping things updated on the website, and just basically more operations of the airport related. So that was a very good meeting. This is something new that they're doing. So we were one of the first out of the chute to have this meeting simply because of our big project we have coming up. So that's all I have for the airport.
Questions? Okay. EDA report?
Okay, the EDA met on Wednesday, September 7th, and we had a representative from the Initiative Fund, which came to the meeting for discussion regarding the economic development assistance programs that they work with and different planning and types of programs. And I did put in your packet some examples of, they have business loan funds, green business funds, technology, lender match, nonprofit, different ways that they help businesses and communities and nonprofits move forward. And they actually funded $17.7 million in Stearns County in grants, loans, and scholarships. And there is no action. I just wanted to give you some information on the initiative fund. The EDA actually does contribute $1,000 a year to that fund, and we have received grants from them in the past. The most recent grant we had from them actually went to the splash pad. But but other grants that they have planning grants, like the comprehensive planning type thing, and our specific comprehensive plan, the way we're laying out with their planning grants is more training the people, not hiring consultants. So not a fit for us particularly, but it's one of the things that they do. So, but it was more of a informational meeting for the EDA versus they didn't have any action items at that time.
Okay. Questions? Comments? Hearing none, then we will move on to our action items. 7A, approve resolution 2016-59, approving preliminary 2017 budget.
And as you know, you met September 14th in a workshop session and met with all the department heads to review the 2017 proposed budget for the city. And that gave the staff an opportunity to present that and to see what remained in the budget and what was removed. And so the budget that you now have, I gave the one-page synopsis there, that reflects all the changes that you made at the budget meeting. And in the revenue column, it also reflects what a proposed 3% increase in the levy would look like. And a 3% increase is $46,717.14. So I put the spreadsheet back in your packet to show by fund or type of fund, general fund, special revenue, TIF, how the revenues and the expenses lay out. And you will see that with that levy and the expenses, we have a variance of $5,500, and so in the general fund. And so that's a very workable number. And when we get to our final budget in December, I'm confident we'll be able to close that gap as well. So do you have any questions on any of the others? When you get down toward things like capital project funds, where you get the money in one year and spend it in another year, your budget's never going to match on an annual basis, so we look more at cash balance on those. But the general fund and the special revenue funds, we try to kind of keep a balanced budget. So, but what we're looking for tonight now is to approve resolution 2016-59, adopting this 2017 preliminary budget for all funds and departments. And that's for you in the packet.
Okay. And that reflects a 3% increase in the
It does.
levy, which basically with the 3%, we're still not really padding our reserves any in our general fund?
No, and the way, on the reserves that we have been able to accumulate have more to do with savings in spending. You know, we haven't necessarily spent, we haven't maxed out our budget, put it that way. We've underspent our budget, and that money then stays in the reserve. But we haven't been able to consciously budget for an increase because we haven't been able to budget a lot of revenue in excess of expenses simply because we want to keep our levy down.
Any other comments, questions? This is where we preliminary set it, and we can always decrease it in December, but we cannot.
We can decrease the levy in December, correct?
Right.
But this is the overall budget, and you have a separate resolution just for the levy.
Right. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2016-59, adopting the 2017 preliminary budget for all funds and departments?
So moved.
A motion by Dave,
I'll second.
second by Diane. Any other comments, questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 4 in favor, none against. Approve resolution 2016-60, approving preliminary 2017 property tax levy.
And this levy here, this shows how we break out the levy, or this resolution between the general fund, the special revenue funds that include the library, EDA, airport, and senior center, and then our debt service funds. So the total levy for 2017 would be $1,603,955. And that is, like I said, that it includes that 3% increase. Then in November, everybody gets their letter, how this affects their property tax. They're invited to a meeting, and then at that point, you can choose to leave the budget or leave the levy as it's set tonight, or you have the option to reduce it at that time, but not increase it as you said. So I would ask you to approve Resolution 2016-60, adopting the preliminary tax levy collectible in 2017.
Questions? Comments? Just to point out, in the actual resolution, there is a typo where it says total 2015 levies. I already pointed that out to Vicky, so she's going to make that correction.
Okay.
So, if we have nothing to add or comment on, do I have a motion to approve resolution number 2016-60, adopting preliminary tax levy collectible in 2017?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 4 in favor, none against. 7C, approve resolution 2016-61, setting date for public meeting.
This is the public meeting I was referring to, that the public could come in and receive information on the budget and provide public comment. And we traditionally hold that the first meeting in December. That falls within the date guidelines that we are given. And so I'm asking to approve Resolution 2016-61, which schedules December 7th, 2016 as the date the council will publicly discuss the budget and allow the public to be heard.
Questions? Comments? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve resolution number 2016-61, scheduling it for December 7th, 2016?
So moved.
A motion by Keith, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other questions, comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, 4 in favor, none against. 7D, approve resolution 2016-62, calling for public hearing on proposed assessments for unpaid city and utility service charges.
Okay, you'll see the list in your packet of some utility charges and city charges that we are requesting to call a public hearing to consider putting them on their property tax for collection. 4 of them are for lot maintenance, where we have gone in and had to mow their property for them, and 2 of them are delinquent utility bills from the PUC. And so you have the total list in front of you there. They would be notified and invited to come to the hearing. And we're requesting to set that date for October 19th, 2016, which is the second meeting in October, and that is set out in Resolution 2016-62.
Questions? Comments? This is something that we do every year. We always seem to have someone out there we have to do this for. No one has any comments. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2016-62, calling for public hearing on unpaid city charges?
I'll make the motion.
A motion by Diane.
I'll second that.
Second by Keith. Any other comments, questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7E, approve resolution 2016-63, calling for public hearing on assessments.
This is for the Oak Street project that we just finished this year. In fact, we still have bills coming in for it, but we do need to adopt the final assessment roll to get that into the county so it can start being collected in 2017. And so we are also requesting to schedule that public hearing for October 19th, 2016. All of the residents on that street will be notified of the exact dollar amount that we would expect to assess to their property, and they can come in on that time and date at that meeting, and we will discuss it with them, and they have the opportunity then to ask questions. And so that is Resolution 2016-63, calling the hearing for public hearing on Oak Street assessments.
Questions? Comments? Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2016-63?
Motion to approve.
A motion by Dave. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Diane. Any other questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7F, CVB board appointments.
If you recall, we have some vacancies on the CVB. Andrea Kerfeld had resigned as the chamber representative when she was no longer with the chamber. Pam Borgman was a hospitality member who now that she's an employee of the CVB cannot be a member. And then Sarah Weber had resigned from the position. So we had these 3 open positions. We have received nominations or requests to be on there by 2 individuals. Jennifer Nelson, she was requesting to fill the chamber representative, and then Nikki Vogt is requesting to fill the hospitality position, and that would leave 1 open position, which I talked to a gentleman today that may be interested in that, so hopefully I'll have to fill that board at the next meeting. So for tonight, I'm requesting to appoint Jennifer Nelson and Nikki Vogt to the CVB board.
Questions? Comments? Nikki's name is basically because she takes care of the campground. That covers the hospitality part of it. So that's,
Campground is just like a
campground
hotel,
is-
yeah.
part of this is the same as a hotel, and they pay the CVB tax, right, along with people that rent, so. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Do I have a motion to appoint Jennifer Nelson to fill the remaining term left for Andrea Kerfeld expiring on December 31st, 2016, and Nikki Vogt to fill the remaining term for Pam Boardman expiring on December 31st, 2018?
So moved.
A motion by Keith,
I'll second.
second by Diane. Any other questions or comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7G, Resolution 2016-64, approving new gambling premise.
Jackie Spoden Bowles, on behalf of Community Connection of Sauk Center, is requesting that a premise permit be issued to conduct pull-tab gambling at the Palmer House Hotel. So that would be a new location for them. So each time a new location is approved, the city has an opportunity to approve or deny that, and then that stays in place until they leave. It used to be you had to do it every single year, and now you approve the premise and it's ongoing until they pull out. So. But what we're asking for tonight is Resolution 2016-64, approving the premise permit to Community Connection of Sauk Center to conduct pull-tab gambling at the Palmer House Hotel.
Questions? Comments? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2016-64, approving the premise permit for the community connection?
So moved.
A motion by Keith, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7H, approve resolution 2016-65 granting variance to Michael Boardman.
This is a variance request that was held by the Planning Commission at their last meeting. They applied for a variance for their property at 600 Main Street South, which is a corner lot, and the request is for a deviation from the required 16.5 setback from the side street, which is 6th Street South, to allow a setback of 11.5 feet for the construction of a detached garage. Although the lot itself could accommodate the garage within the setbacks, the existing of utilities, which is a utility pole and cable boxes, would block the access to the garage if it were in the correct location, and they couldn't back to the alley. And they also looked at if they moved it, if they accessed onto the street instead of into the alley, then they wouldn't be able to park in the driveway because of the sidewalk, because you can't block a sidewalk. So we felt after working with them that the best option would be to continue to have the alley as their access, but to slide the garage over far enough that they wouldn't have a utility pole in the middle of their driveway. So that was kind of the different things that we went through. They still can meet all the impervious coverages and all the other requirements. And so the Planning Commission, acting as the Board of Adjustment, conducted the public hearing on September 13th, and they recommend that the City Council approve the variance request.
Questions?
Seems reasonable. Yeah.
It seems reasonable to grant the variance, either that or we could tell Water and Light to move their pole. But
The issue wasn't really with the water and light poles so much as the cable.
Oh, okay.
And then also if we got, so the cable and the costs and all of that just made it kind of unreasonable to expect them to do.
That's why this looks more reasonable.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Any other questions or comments? We have a motion to approve resolution 2016-65 granting a variance to Michael and Pamela Boardman.
So moved. I'll
Motion
second.
by Keith, second by Diane. Any other comments? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7I, approve resolution 2016-66 granting conditional use permit to Alliance Building Corporation.
Alliance Building Corporation, and you've heard that name before because we've had them in front of the EDA and different boards, but they are now applying for the conditional use permit to allow the construction of a multifamily dwelling on Lot 3, Block 1 of W.H. Cates Estates First Edition, and that was the plat that we just platted a couple meetings ago. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on Tuesday, September 13th. To consider the request. The proposal is for the construction of a 30 to 35 unit, 3-level apartment building with detached garages. The building will include an elevator and 1 to 3 bedroom units, including washer and dryers in each unit. The property will be a market rate development. It will be professionally managed by an apartment management company. The property is appropriately zoned. No rezoning is being requested. The property will be served by municipal water, sewer, and electric, which will be extended to the property by the city. Their access will be off Main Street North. It will meet its own stormwater needs without discharge off the property. I also included a copy of a similar building constructed by Alliance. It's attached along, it's called Community Park Apartment Homes. It's in Paynesville. I personally went and viewed it. It's a very nice building, and it is almost complete, ready to be occupied for them. We did also give a copy of the plat with the final layout on there, but we still are working on the final layout, and that'll be in front of that'll be come in with the building permit. And that'll be the exact location of the stormwater pond and those types of calculations that they would need to do. They also have to have other agency approvals, Sauk River Watershed. They have an NPDES permit with the MPCA because they're disturbing more than an acre of ground. So there's other permits that they need to get as they go along. This is kind of the next step, giving the approval to just have an apartment building on that lot. The Planning Commission recommends that the City Council approve the issuance of the conditional use permit for the construction of the complex. And in the resolution, it includes all the conditions that were applied to the project and also the findings that support the approval. And I'm certainly not going to read all of the findings, but they do have, they have quite a few conditions. They have to have a development of contract. There'll be an escrow letter to make sure that they complete all the landscaping and all the stormwater and all of that is all done before they can move into that. That the grading, draining, and utility plans all have to be submitted for approval, and there will be a landscaping plan that'll have to come before the Planning Commission yet for approval by them. There was some other things that they put in there was that, you know, they want the screened garbage cans, they want to have exterior lighting is shaded and down directed, and those kinds of similar things that we would have in any kind of development. Also, they have make sure there's adequate space for storm or snow storage, so it's not going out into the street, and those are pretty typical conditions that we would put on those, and then also the parking stall requirement that we're making them meet. So if you have any questions on any of those conditions or any of those findings, I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we are requesting, or the Planning Commission is requesting, that you approve Resolution 2016-66, approving the request for a conditional use permit for the apartment complex to Alliance Building Corporation.
Questions?
Will they be exempt from a stormwater tax then?
Pardon me?
They will be exempt from stormwater taxing?
No.
Okay.
They will not be exempt. From the storm utility tax, you
Yes.
mean? No, they will not be exempt from that.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
The reason I ask is because if they are, but they plan on building more, can we change that at that time?
Yes.
Okay.
It's based on impervious coverage. So when we get that final number, when the final site plan comes in, we'll know what that number calculates out to be.
Okay, thank you.
Have they got any type of timeline?
Well, their timeline was if we had all the approvals done in early August, they would start this fall, but now that it's September 21st, it looks like we'll be doing the building plans and everything over the winter, and they'll break ground in the spring.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2016-66 granting conditional use permit to Alliance Building Corporation?
So
We have a motion by Dave,
I'll second that.
second by Keith. Any other comments or questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7J, approve ordinance 766, opting out of temporary family health care dwelling rules.
And I think we've had some conversations, and it's been in the paper, and because in the 2016 legislative session, they passed a bill that would require cities to allow temporary accessory units called temporary family health care dwellings on residentially zoned property. You probably heard them called granny pods, granny flats, drop houses. It's been in the Tribune and the St. Cloud Times and the Herald, and a lot of concern over that. The underlying purpose of the bill was to allow individuals to move a temporary dwelling under their lot in addition to their home for occupancy by a relative or somebody requiring medical care and attention. So this would basically allow 2 dwelling units on a residentially zoned property. So that kind of trumps our code. They also provided options for the city to opt out of that rule. So that's kind of the first time they've you have to do this, but you can opt out of if you want. And so the Planning Commission did have a public hearing, and they are recommending on whether we should opt out. And they thought the idea itself wasn't a bad idea, but the requirements are there's a lot of requirements that they have to meet. And there was some concern that that just really wasn't attainable on the small lots that we have. It's more of a rural type thing that it would be more fitting for. And they were also concerned that if an individual did go to the time and expense of meeting the requirements, when 6 months was up, they wouldn't want to remove it or move it, or especially if somebody sold it. They just saw a lot of issues that could come up. And then the other thing of it is some of the application things, information that we have to maintain required, who is the person that requires the care? Is there a doctor's note? What kind of care? And all of a sudden, planning and zoning starts getting involved in HIPAA privacy rules. And at that point, it was like, it really doesn't make sense for us to do this. So the Planning Commission is recommending that the City Council adopt Ordinance 766, opting out of the requirements of that statute, which allows it. I did put some examples of all the requirements, if you had a chance to read through those, that you have to meet in order to even have one of these. So by the time you meet all theirs, you've got quite a bit of money invested in it, and we just felt it wasn't wasn't workable for our city. So that's their recommendation, is to approve ordinance 766, opting out of the requirements of Minnesota statute, section 462.3593, which is the temporary family health care dwelling unit.
Questions, comments? I think it's pretty straightforward as far as when you look at the examples of the requirements, you know, the size of the building can't be larger than 300 square feet. It's got to be included in utility hookups. So basically, if it's going to be hookups, you're looking at digging up a yard, and then that once it's there, you know, it's got to be removed, and it's a lot of an expense. Plus, our lots aren't big enough to be dropping 300 square foot.
Yeah.
So, anyone else have any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion to approve ordinance 766, opting out of the requirements of Minnesota statutes, section 462.3593?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Diane. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other comments, questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7K, approve creation of hiring list, Sauk Center Fire Department.
John Egan, Fire Chief, is requesting that the city approve and update the creation of a hiring list for the Sauk Center Fire Department in anticipation of upcoming retirements. The department currently has 29 active members, so the department would bring a recommendation for hiring to a future meeting after all interviews and skill tests have been completed. And if you recall, in the past, we created a hiring list and then we filled it until we got down to where we had no applicants left to fill it with, that because we have a line basically that they create. And so now we need to recreate that list again. And then as we have retirements, we can able just go to that list until we deplete it. So he's just simply requesting that he can approve the advertisement and creation of the list for future appointments.
Questions,
Makes sense.
comments? I think we're one of the lucky fire departments. We usually end up with a good
We keep
list
the
of
list, yeah.
applicants where a lot of other fire departments are struggling, so I would only think it would be right to keep that list active when it finally goes down because of retirements, so. Do I have a motion to approve the advertisement and creation of a hiring list for future appointment to the Sauk Center Fire Department?
So,
Motion by Keith, do we have a second? Second by Dave. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7L, approve EMT appointment.
Okay, Kathy Strufert, Ambulance Director, has submitted for appointment to the Ambulance Department, Sierra Anderson. Anderson is moving to Sauk Center, has previous experience with Meadowlands Ambulance Service and the Floodwood EMS. She is a currently licensed EMT. So her request is to appoint Sierra Anderson to the Sauk Center Ambulance Service at the probationary EMT rate at $11.35. And I believe she has been doing some ride-alongs up to this point. And so now she would be appointed as a probationary EMT, and then after she meets the required numbers of patient contacts and runs and is professional, or she is satisfactory performance, then she'd come back for an appointment to a regular EMT position.
Questions, comments? It's kind of nice that I actually got one that's licensed, so we can put them right on board without having to do the training, so that is nice. Do I have a motion to appoint Sierra Anderson to the Sauk Center Ambulance Service as a probationary EMT rate of $11.35 per hour?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Diane, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Keith. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Approve enrollment in public employment DCP Ambulance Department.
The Sauk Center Ambulance Service has requested that the City Council allow them to participate in PARA's defined contribution plan. This PARA plan requires participation by the city, and then each member chooses whether to contribute. And so the city would do the same percentage across the board. The request of the department is the city contribute 3%. The city council discussed this at the budget meeting. Participation would cost the city annually approximately $5,000, which will be paid for with ambulance revenues. The first step we have to do would be apply for consideration to PARA. There's a questionnaire of yes and no and certain kinds of answers before they finally determine that they're eligible. And then if they did, then we could implement this like on January 1st is what we were looking at. When Kathy submitted her department budget, that did include dollars for that. And so the request of the department is to approve participation in PARA's defined contribution ambulance plan with a 3% participation rate by the city effective January 1st, 2017, pending approval by PARA.
Questions? Comments? Something that they looked at, approved as a group, brought it to the council, we looked at it as a budget as a group. Does anyone have any comments or changes of mind or anything? If not, do we have a motion to approve participation on the PARA DCP ambulance plan with a 3% participation rate by the city effective January 1, 2017, pending approval by PARA?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Diane. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any other comments, questions? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4 in favor, none against. Approve on-call and backup rate increase, ambulance department.
This is another thing that was discussed at the budget meeting. The ambulance department has requested that the city council approve a rate increase for hours paid for on-call and backup. The current rate is $2 per hour. The request is for $4 an hour. The increase in pay would cost approximately $25,000 annual based on current estimate of hours. And the city council did discuss this at the budget meeting. And the funds are included in the preliminary budget presented. Excuse me, I'm having a cough.
Questions? Comments? It's part of the budget that we just went through. Do I have a motion to approve the rate increase from $2 per hour to $4 per hour for on-call and backup pay hours effective January 1st, 2017?
So moved.
Motion by Dave. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Keith. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7O, approve resolution 2016-67, airport grant number 7310-39.
This is the grant agreement that we previously applied for the airport runway improvements that I mentioned in my airport board report. This is the big one that we've been working toward for several years. So the grant has been awarded. The final numbers for the award include the FAA will contribute $1,964,672. MnDOT Aeronautics will contribute $331,854, and the city's match is $164,826.34, which we already have in that capital project fund. So it is a funded project. So for a total project cost of $2,461,352.34. And so that all fits in with the bid award that we opened bids in May for this project, if you recall, and those bids have been awarded. It includes the engineering, which we have under contract. So everything is good to go on this project. We're ready to send the notice to proceed to the contractor based on approval of the resolution accepting the grant tonight. They will not begin until the spring, of course, and so we're working with them to talk about bringing the equipment in before road restrictions and get the work on site done that can be done. And then when road restrictions lift, then they start hauling the dirt off the site that needs to be moved to the racetrack. So we have a very small window to get the work done and completed. I mean, it's a $2.5 million project, and they'll have 55 days to get it done. So, because we need to get the airport back open again. So we're looking to approve Resolution 2016-67, authorizing execution of the grant agreement.
Questions?
This is, it's possible that MnDOT portion would not be available if we delayed it as well, right?
For the 2017 fiscal year, which we're in right now, they did agree to fund it. Moving forward to future years, that extra match is potentially not going to be there. So they keep going back and forth on 2018. Right now, it's kind of 50-50, but 2017 was 50-50 a little while ago, and they decided to keep it. So can't guarantee it.
This is probably the best year.
Right. Well, you're not going to get that type of money from the FAA all the time to turn down the grant application now would be real silly on our part, I would think. But, over the years, we had donated unused money to different cities. Are we going to be is that been recalled back, or can we get that to add to pay for our city's contribution?
It can't go to our contribution. What it goes to is it'll go back in future years towards our entitlement from the FAA. So we can't use it for our share.
Okay.
So, and it's not money, we didn't really loan them the money, we just let them use part of our entitlement.
Okay.
So when we get it back, in the year that we get $150,000 a year, the year that we get like Owatonna's money back, we get our 150 plus their 60. So if we have a project that we need more than 150 to get done, we can draw that Owatonna entitlement back to get that done.
All right. Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2016-67, authorizing execution of grant agreement?
So moved.
A motion by Dave, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Diane. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7P, approve Resolution 2016-68, authorizing submittal of BDPI grant application.
If you recall, the EDA has been working with Heidi Pepper of SEH, drafting the application for the business development grant through the state of Minnesota, which they would participate in the capital improvement project to extend road, water, sewer, and electric to the city property, which is the east half of the former racetrack. And the application does require a 50% participation. And the attached resolution is the final piece in the application authorizing submittal. And so right now, the engineer's estimate is about around $600,000 to get all that work done. And so we would be required to participate in half if we're granted this award. However, there's some things in there, I think, once we reviewed it today, that it looks like that number will decrease, so our contribution would be less than that. So if we truly are intending on extending those utilities in that road and making that a shovel-ready site, our best avenue is to take a shot at this grant application to pay half of the cost. So that would be Resolution 2016-68, approving the submittal of the Business Development Infrastructure application.
Questions? Comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2016-68, approving submittal of the BDPI grant application?
So moved.
Motion by Keith, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7Q, approve installation of siren.
In 2012, and those of you that were here, the city relocated the main siren from the water plant to City Hall, and then moved some other sirens around to get coverage for the city. But we still have the far north end that was kind of remained, like when you're up along the lake, that you really couldn't hear the sirens. So the current year budget anticipated purchasing a siren and installing it kind of near the home school or the golf course area. And I did attach a copy of the siren coverage map. And 1 through 7 are existing sirens. 7 is the big black circle in the middle. That's the great big siren. And so we would look at purchasing the siren that would have the coverage area 8, which is the blue circle. And then over time, then the older sirens, then they can be retired, used for parts, et cetera, as we take them out of service. And I did speak with Brian, and I also spoke with John Egan with the utility about installing it and getting a pole and all that through the public utility. So we would be purchasing the siren from Grand Electronics, and I did put a copy of that quotation in your packet. So it's approximately $15,000 for the purchase of the siren and about $500 to buy the pole and do the installation. So the emergency service staff, both the fire chief and the police chief, are requesting approval to proceed with the purchase and installation. And that cost would be from Granite Electronics, $15,408.22.
Questions?
So there would be two that we could basically delete once that number 8 is in.
Yes, we could. And I think there's one or two of the sirens that, these were used sirens from the 80s. And so some of them need to be taken out of service that are kind of limping along. And so this will cover those areas, and then we'll be able to retire some of those.
Any other questions, comments? One thing to just remind yourself that this money was budgeted for 2016. If by doing it now this year, it helped us reduce the budget for next year by that amount, so. Do I have a motion to approve purchase of siren from Granite Electronics for $15,408.22?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Diane, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7R, approve proceeding with campground stabilization project.
Okay, over the years, if you're familiar with our campground, we have that one point, and it's been eroding away. In fact, trees that are now almost hanging in the water, we used to mow on the water side. I mean, the water, it's undermining it. So we worked with the Sauk River Watershed. They've offered a grant to the city for stabilization of that shoreline, and I did kind of show you, give you a map, and also kind of the type of restoration they're looking at with some riprap, and they put in some sod mats to kind of stabilize that shore, and then there'd be a little bit of a buffer on there too. Original estimate that we got from the company was from Native Minnesota Landscapes, where we would purchase the items from, came in at $40,000, but now we have an updated one. It's down to $29,000, and of that, the planting and some of the work that can happen can be done in kind as our match, so it further reduces it. So when we get, the bottom line is that there's zero cost to the city other than in-kind labor and the use of some topsoil that we currently have on hand. So it would be a grant to the city from the watershed basically to purchase the materials. And then our contribution would be the labor. And so the one caveat to that is that the money had been allocated to a project in St. Cloud, and St. Cloud is telling them that they think they're going to pull out and they're not going to be able to use it. And so if they do pull out, the money would be available to us. And so we wanted to get all the legwork done to be able to move forward. Matt has been working more with them on that than I have, so if you have any questions about the project itself, he certainly would be able to answer that.
So
Go ahead.
This is something that we're actually going to be able to get done this fall yet?
We do have a question into the originator of the funds, where the money comes from. And it's my understanding right now, but we are confirming that, if that we purchase and prepay for all the materials, so we have an invoice that we can submit back for, that they may allow that. Otherwise, if we hear back from St. Cloud in the next couple of weeks, it could still actually go in this fall.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Approved. Do I have a motion to approve proceeding with the campground point stabilization project?
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Diane. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. 7S, payment request, payment voucher number 2, Oak Street.
Partial payment number 2 has been received for the Oak Street project. You have your original contract amount of $300,477.50. Completed to date is $289,625.45. We do retain a 5% of that, and plus we had made previous payments, so we have a net amount due of $124,826.25. It's on the staff report. The previous payment of $150 is not on there. That's why the math doesn't work.
Good.
So actually, what we're looking for tonight is to approve payment voucher 2 for the Oak Street project for $124,826.25 to Mark Lee Excavating.
questions? Call the question, all those.
Motion to
Yeah, I
approve.
need a motion. Need a motion.
You're assuming a lot there.
It's getting to be a long day. We have a motion to approve payment voucher number 2 for Oak Street project.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Keith, second by Diane. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. See, listen, good. Against? Motion passes 4 in favor, none against.
We didn't know what to say.
You guys were
Yeah.
sleeping.
Nobody knew what to say.
Okay, takes us to unfinished business. Comp Plan Committee.
The deadline for submitting the proposals was Thursday, September 15th. So we did get those. Sarah said we did receive 5 proposals. And so we're asking the city council to appoint a committee to review the applications, to conduct the interviews, and to present a recommendation to the city council, unless the full council wants to conduct the interviews. That's up to you. So if you want a committee to at least review the applications and bring them forward, I would suggest that Sarah, myself, maybe 2 members from P&Z and 1 from council. It's kind of a typical, 5 is kind of a good number to kind of go through them. We'd each be able to look at them individually and then rank them, and then if we choose to interview 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, we would be able to do that and then bring back a recommendation. So I'm looking for your input to appoint a committee.
Planning and zoning will pick their own 2 people.
They could, yes,
They could.
if you feel that 2 from planning and zoning would be appropriate.
Comments?
That's fine, yeah.
You know, basically the comp plan is planning and zonings.
Yep.
They're the ones that create that, so I don't have a problem with 2 planning
Okay.
and zoning being on there. Anyone on the council interested in
Heidi's
sitting
not
in
here.
on it?
Heidi'd like to volunteer.
Heidi? Yeah, she's not here. Yeah.
She'll never miss
Very
another
available
meeting.
for the next couple of weeks, so if that's what you think's happening, it probably won't be me anyway.
What kind of timeline are we looking at?
Well, we have the timeline to want to bring it back to the city council, maybe the second meeting in October. I don't know if we can turn it around in 4 weeks because, you know, we have to arrange for them to come up and interview and everything, but if we could, we'd like to do that.
Okay.
So that then in November, we can get the contract going and anything else that has to be happening.
I'd be interested in doing it, you know.
Okay? Because, you know, the next step, if we do move forward with the firm, is then we need our steering committee, so
Right.
there's always chance for a committee.
Right.
There you
So,
go.
You can put me down there.
Okay.
We'll work through my schedule and get her taken care of. Everyone have?
And then let the planning commission
that's
appoint
fine.
there too, and we'll be good to go.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
We have no new business. Now brings us to our consent agenda. We have a schedule of claims, unpaid claims of $173,656.60 for a total of that same amount. August checks totaling $1,078,078.96. We have a resolution number 2016-69, resolution accepting contributions from the men's card playing group for $233.65 to be allocated toward the senior center. I want to thank the men's card playing group on behalf of the city for that contribution. We have resolution number 2016-70, approving an off-site gambling permit for the Sauk Center Youth Hockey Association. The permit would allow pull tabs for an event to be held on October 8th, 2016 at the Sauk Center Civic Arena. Community Connections of Sauk Center has submitted an application and permit for a one-day temporary on-sale liquor license for a fall demo derby at the Stearns County Fairgrounds on October 8th, 2016. The fee and the certificate of insurance are being provided. And then we have a request from JT's Pub and Grill LLC for temporary extension of premise permit for a wedding with music on October 1st, 2016 in the back parking lot from 7 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. Is there any questions, comments on those items? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented?
So moved.
We have a motion by Keith, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Informational items, you got the minutes on the back page. Is there, on the safety committee minutes, is there any questions or comments on that point? Okay. Is there anything else, Vicki?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. With that brings us to the end of our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Dave, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Diane. Call the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.